Dean here. So basically in today's video I'm just going to be running through my Facebook broad strategy on scaling. So we're going to go through scaling on a basic CBO campaign and then upping that into a broad scaling campaign to scale after we've gone through a testing campaign on Facebook. This is specifically going to be for Facebook ads because I'm not doing anything on TikTok right now. If you want to learn how to test products with dropshipping and ecom, check out my Facebook testing strategy down below. Very simple interest targeting strategy. And now we're going to move on to scaling. So I have a basic PDF which I've created and I'm going to be running through the pointers and kind of just explaining it. If you're watching this video, you should at least know how to run Facebook ads because I don't have any like images, so I can't really show you. But if you understand Facebook ads and you've watched the testing strategy video, then this will make sense. Okay, so I've gone ahead and made this infographic here, or a PDF if you like. It's really basic, and basically we have 3 different stages. So first of all, we have our testing strategy phase, which I do have a video on, but I'm just going to be running through it basically. It has to be included in this for everything to make sense. And then we're going to go through scaling, step 2, and then moving on to broad, which is step 3. So in our testing strategy, this is the phase where we actually test a product. The first thing what we want to do is we want to create a basic ABO, which is obviously ad budget optimization campaign on Facebook. And we want to create this ABO campaign with 5 to 10 ad sets. Now, this is based on your budget. If you've got $100 to spend, then that's going to be 10 ad sets at $10 each. If you've got $50 to spend, that's going to be 5 ad sets at $10 spent each. But if you have a very big budget, then that would be up to 10 ad sets at $15 each, which would be $150. That would actually work the best. If you have $150 to spend on one product test, that would actually give you the most data. Now, we want each ad set in this campaign with 1 interest each. This is so we don't really spread ourselves too thin and we make sure the variables are very easy to understand. So if we have 1 interest per ad set, then we know that the ad set doesn't work if it doesn't perform well, and we can just kill it. If we add too many variables in there, we have to test too many things and we're going to end up spending too much money. So each ad set with 1 interest, and the budget should be at least $10, but really it works best at $15. If you've got 3 ad creatives in the ad set, then $10 is okay. Any more than 3 ads in that ad set, you need to spend more. So if I had 4 to 6 ads in the ad set, I'd spend at least $15, right? It works best at 15, but you can spend 10. That works too. Then we want to discontinue any ad sets after the first day of testing, any that don't have any buying intent. So that basically means that if it doesn't have any add to carts, initiate checkouts, then just kill it. It's just a bad interest, okay? And continue ad sets at least for 1 more day, any that have add to carts, any that have initiate checkouts, or purchases, aka sales. So if they actually have buying intent, or they've actually had purchases, then obviously we want to run that again. Even if the ROAS isn't great, we want to run it at least for day 2. Now, if an ad set has at least 2 sales and a good ROAS, which is above break even, you need to know your break even ROAS, then that's particularly ready to actually scale. But don't scale it day 1. You want to make sure, let's say it has 2 sales and it's like 2 ROAS and the break even was like 1.6. That's performing well, right? But you want to let that ad set run for another day in the testing campaign to see if it gets the same kind of results, because you don't want it to be a fluke. Okay, then we move on to number 2. So this is step 2. This is the first step of our scaling strategy. So once we've done our test phase, we've validated the product, we've got some good feedback on it, and we know it might work, we want to try and scale it. So what we do is we'd scale the ad set, aka the interest that we had from the ABO testing campaign, which performed well. So to do this, we create a new CBO campaign. We want to set $100 daily spend with this, with the winning ad set. We create a CBO campaign, we create 1 ad set. That ad set's basically identical to the ad set we had before. Basically, you can just go in your testing campaign, just find the ad set which performed well, click duplicate, and then click new campaign, and that'll duplicate it into a new campaign. Set it up as a CBO, $100, and basically that's your winning ad set there. What you could do is, if you've been testing a lot of ads, aka creatives, and some of them didn't work, you can disable the ones that are bad, or you can just leave it. Facebook will optimize it anyway. And then basically we just run this, and we want to see if we get similar results, right? If it does good and you're getting similar results to when you were testing it, you want to scale it. Now, what I like to do, this is my rule. Let's say I'm running a testing campaign. The minimum I'll spend is like $50, but that's usually on a test campaign. Usually on a scaling campaign, this CBO is $100. So let's say we start with $100. Every 48 hours, we want to scale the budget based on the ROAS. So if we have a good ROAS, which is above break even, that's profitable, and a good amount of sales and add to carts, for an example, all that really matters is the purchases and the ROAS, to be honest. You want to scale it every 48 hours. The reason we're doing it every 48 hours is we want to make sure that it performs consistently before we scale it and bump up the budget. And also we want to make sure that we're not scaling too fast, because obviously if you're a beginner and you're at the beginning stages, then you're going to have problems with cash flow. And this is a problem I had trying to scale the product that I'm trying to sell right now. Basically, if you're bumping up the budget too quick and you're getting like money every 2 or 3 days, then you're going to scale it too fast and then your ad account's going to get suspended. So don't run into that problem. If you've got cash flow or money to spend or a big budget, then it doesn't really matter so much. So scale it every 48 hours. You want to start at 100, then scale it to 150, 220, 300, 400, 700, $900, $1,200, $1,500, and then all the way up to $2,000. We don't scale one campaign above $2,000. If you want to scale it above 2K, if you're doing really well, then you just want to duplicate the CBO at 2K. That's basically what you do, and keep duplicating it. So that's what we do for first strategy for scaling. All we're doing in step 2 for scaling is we're basically buying data, because we can actually be profitable at this stage already. We don't actually need to go broad, but broad works the best in 2023 on Facebook. We don't need to go broad, but if we've got a good interest, we can scale it to the moon until you hit a ceiling. Basically, the more you scale it, typically the more diluted it gets, so your ROAS is going to actually dip. So let's say you had 2.5 or 3 ROAS. As you scale the budget, the ROAS is going to drop, because that's just how it is. The more diluted your audience gets, the more kind of like far out Facebook looks to actually get customers, the less performance you're going to get. So you want to scale it to the ceiling where it's still profitable, but when it starts to get unprofitable, then you can scale it down to the budget that was last profitable. And that's how you can get it back to working. And you just want to leave it there, because if you can't scale it higher and you hit the ceiling, you want to just leave the campaign to keep running at that budget. Okay, so that's how we find our ceiling to scale our campaign to, and then we just leave it on autopilot and monitor results. Basically at this stage, what we want to go ahead and do is to get to step 3, where we create a broad campaign, is we're trying to get 30 to 50 sales, okay, before we go broad. And broad basically just means we're not targeting any interest, and we're kind of having more broad targeting on our campaign. The reason we want 30 to 50 sales is we want Facebook to get enough data from our customers to know who to target, because the reason we're actually targeting an interest is kind of like showing a pocket of people they're interested in that specific topic or thing. And if that kind of pocket of people like our stuff, then we get data on who that customer is, where they come from, what's the kind of demographics, and Facebook uses that as data and it saves it to our pixel, or our pixel that gets the data saves it to our ad account, and then it can optimize our ads. Now if we get 30 to 50 sales, I like to go to 50, but 30 can also work. If we get at least 30 to 50 sales, we have a lot of data on our Facebook account, and it's easy for Facebook just to use its AI to find our ideal customer without targeting an interest, which means we can hopefully, or technically, in an ideal world, scale it to the moon without a ceiling, right? So that's where you start making like $1 million months, which I'm not at that point at all, or even close to, but in theory, that's basically how it works, right? So 30 to 50 sales, the reason we're doing this is because this means that Facebook will leave the learning phase on that campaign, and it'll have enough data on who the customer is. You leave the learning phase and your campaign will optimize, okay? So we get 30 to 50 sales in our scaling CBO, and then now we can go broad. So we create a brand new campaign. What we go ahead and do is we create a new CBO campaign again at $100, but this time, in our targeting, we leave the interest column blank. We're not targeting any interest, and we target male and female, but obviously if you have a gender specific product, you just target that single gender. That's still classed as broad. And we target no interest. We can still set the age range. If you have a really good like demographic for age, you can set that as well, but it's best to leave it broad because Facebook will find the audience pocket for you regardless. And in this new campaign, we want to use only the winning creatives and demographics. So if you've got like some ad creatives which Facebook put the most spend into, then typically they got the most purchases and perform the best. Copy the ones that got the sales only into the new campaign and copy the demographics. So let's say like 18 to 30-year-old women bought your product and anyone above was just a waste of ad spend. Put 18 to 30-year-old women and the 3 out of the 8 winning ads, for an example, that actually got you sales, put them in the new campaign. So you're optimizing every variable from all of our testing and scaling. Then that one ad set we've just created with all our ads in, or the one we've copied from our last scaling campaign, you want to duplicate that 3 to 5 times, because even though we're not targeting interest here, the more times you duplicate that ad set, Facebook is going to find different pockets or audiences broadly. So if we have 3 ad sets, it's going to search for your ideal customer in 3 different pockets. If we have 5, it's going to do it in 5 pockets, etc. Then what we go ahead and do is we monitor the performance again. So we look at the ROAS, we see the performance of the campaign and the KPIs, key performance indicators, and basically from there we scale the budget following these same rules. So if it has a positive ROAS, which is above the break even, if it's wildly profitable, then we scale it. The past few days on my broad campaign, I've been getting around 3 ROAS, which is pretty good, but I've not really scaled it up that much. If you're getting like that kind of ROAS, or even like above a 2 or a 2.5, and your break even is like far below that, and it's profitable, just keep scaling the budget and just do the same budget rule I told you before. I'll put that on screen again just so you can see it, from 100 all the way up to 2k, and just scale it that way. And if you need to go higher than 2k, just duplicate the broad campaign at that same budget. The only risk you're going to have with duplicating a broad campaign is you're not really specifically targeting a set group of people with broad. So if you duplicate a broad campaign, it's not necessarily going to replicate the same results as if you'd duplicate an interest. So do beware of that if you're duplicating at high budgets. A safer way to do it would be leave your existing campaign, your broad campaign, which is like scaled up to 2k, just duplicate it, but set the budget as 100 again and scale that accordingly based on performance again until you reach that 2k, just like the first campaign. That's the safest way not to waste money. So that's my strategy on scaling. So we're going to use the same testing strategy I made a few videos ago. We're going to create a CBO to scale the interest, and then we're going to scale the interest after we've got 30 to 50 sales into a broad campaign and scale the budget on that. Okay, so it's as simple as that. If you have any questions about that in the comments down below, let me know. This is currently the best way to scale Facebook campaigns right now. A lot of people are talking about broad. I originally learned broad marketing on Facebook from Samuel Anua's course. That was where I kind of got introduced to it. And a few of the Discords which I've been in recently, I've started talking about broad too. So I just wanted to make this video on how broad works on Facebook and broad scaling and how you can actually use it to your advantage, because you might have hit a ceiling, and I know certain people who hit a certain ceiling when they were running interest targeting with the interest CBO, and they couldn't really get beyond that point. One guy in Discord was making a few thousand a day, and he was doing like really good, but he couldn't get above that few K a day figure. But once I introduced him to like the broad strategy and referred him to one of the Discords I'm in that also talk about broad and give out some really good source as well, he basically scaled his store, I think close to the 10k a day mark. So he managed to really get above that ceiling that he was hitting. So broad works really well. It still depends on your product. You can't just run a random product like this and hope it to work, because it won't work. And also, I wouldn't recommend testing broad. Like I said, that course which I originally learned broad from, first of all, before I knew all this extra information, when I learned the basics of broad, they do actually recommend testing with a broad campaign. But I found that testing with a broad campaign doesn't really work that great. It's best to get data on your pixel from interest targeting first. And also, you're going to need a higher budget to go straight testing in broad, because basically broad campaigns need a higher budget, like at least $100, because everyone's competing. So I'd recommend doing it in this method, which is a 3-stage method, which I've actually outlined because I've just found that it works the best. So this is free value for you guys. I hope it helps you out. Smash a like on the video if it was useful and valuable, and leave any comments or questions down below if you didn't understand it. Like I said, this is kind of like an advanced strategy. It only really makes sense if you've done Facebook ads before and you know how to test products on Facebook. But I just wanted to share this because I feel like it could be valuable to a lot of people, and a lot of people are gatekeeping this information behind paid courses. So let me know if it's valuable, and I'll be uploading some more dropshipping videos real soon, so make sure to subscribe.